Good afternoon, traders. Chris Buss here with your closing market wrap for Thursday, June 24th, after the market is closed. Well, the markets are always interesting, but a little frustrating today in a few ways. We'll go through it. So let's start here with SPY 2 hour. We gapped up and then we just hovered there all day. Held the gap, tested it a few times, bounced up, came back. We don't always get what we want to see. What I've been wanting to see is, some kind of an impulsive move, something definitive. On a day like this, I was hoping, gap and go, do something, but didn't do that. And I'm always a little suspect of those situations. I mean, nothing technically wrong. I mean, RSI looks good. PPO looks good. We're in an uptrend. I mean, not a whole lot to complain about. I mean, technically, it looks fine. But tomorrow it's all about holding this gap and, closing the week strong. If we can hold that gap, then, that'll be a huge positive going into next week. If we fall back below, 424 and a half and then come back into 423, it's not going to look so hot. But it is what it is for now. Let's see how we do in the morning. Mark your gaps, and let's see what futures do overnight, and see how we finish the week. So looking on the 30-minute chart, I didn't move these arrows perfectly, but you get the idea. I mean, we just hovered between 525.50 and 424.75. And so we got the gap there, and, we'll see how it goes. But, all in all, good day. Up 0.5%. That ain't all bad. So let's see how we go tomorrow. Qs. Same kind of deal. Gap up. Looked like everything was, all systems go. And then kind of faded in the afternoon. Came back to the gap. Held it. No problem. So tomorrow, same thing as SPY. Nothing wrong technically. Maybe a little frustrating just because it didn't do what we wanted it to do after that strong start. We had made a good push. Here on the 30-minute chart, you see that opening run, which was nice. Looked like it was really going to go. And then had a bad candle there. Never really recovered. But like I say, came back to the gap, held it. 349.50-ish. If we can hold that tomorrow, we've got dual support. We've got the midpoint of the channel acting as support, and we've got the gap acting as support. So as long as we hold that, everything's fine. Lose that tomorrow morning, and then, we could backslide into 348. And, if you're not in and you got that gap fill down to channel support, that's where you got to hit it long. It's a high probability trade. Of course, you always have your stop just below, but you fill the gap, come down to the bottom of the channel, that should hold and be in a good position for a bounce. And then, of course, if it doesn't hold, then, we're all wrong and we got to flip to the other side. Moving on to IWM, talk about the star of the show. Coming up here yesterday, had a junk close. We talked about that. Had a gap up right to the level that we had marked this morning, taking out the high from yesterday, and wavered just a little bit, but never lost that level, and then just up the rest of the day. So if you caught that, you've got to be pleased. There's some power behind IWM. I was commenting in the trading room. Hindsight's always 20/20, but pile into IWM, and you're looking good. So tomorrow, of course, just hold this 231 area, and then look for higher ground. It might be getting a little extended, but not really. PPO is on the upswing. still strong above the zero line. Same thing with RSI, breaking above 50, looks strong. I mean, it could go up and come back and back test this 231, but then go. So, I mean, IWM is strong. And if you caught that today, I mean, what a nice move. And here we had all the levels lined out this morning. Took out this level here at 230 and a half. And after that, it was gone. It was, right up to 232 at this resistance level. So tomorrow, if it can, knock that out, then we got 234 as the prior high, and then it'll be in a nice position to make a run at that 234. Facebook. You guys know I was long short-dated calls expiring tomorrow, and we had this flag structure, and it all looked great, right into here, into this candle. And in fact, on this little breakout move, I made a comment to the trading room. Facebook's breaking out, here we go, kind of thing. And right at that point, they pulled the rug on it. And that's, I hate to say it, but that's a good lesson for you. And it's one I guess I continue not to learn. When you got something working and you're in a position, don't say anything. Don't tweet about it. Don't post about it. Stay quiet as a mouse, because you would be amazed at the second you make a tweet, the second you make a post, the second you go crowing about your position, even if it's a subtle, I wasn't crowing about it. I was saying, hey, looks good, gonna go. That public display of rooting for your stock while you're in it is almost always a curse. So I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson on Microsoft. Same deal, same time. They were both breaking out together. They both peaked. And right at that moment was when I said something about it in the trading room. And then they pulled the rug and it never recovered. So it pulled back. And if you got a day till expiration, what $2 will do to you on a position. So, I did all right. I made lunch money, but since it closed so weak, I didn't really feel like I could hold it overnight and risk, a down move and get wiped out of that position. So I closed it. I swallowed my pride, learned a lesson. Technically, it's fine. It broke out of the flag. It held the flag. I still think we're going higher. It's all a question of timing on, where you're at positionally. If you got July calls, you stay long because everything still looks good. The only thing I would be concerned about is this PPO rolling over right here. And, tomorrow, if there's some kind of a down day, if it pulls back to 340 or something, and you get this bear cross here, that's not going to be good. But all in all, we've broken out of this trading range. We're moving higher. On a longer time frame, anything above 338 is positive. If it comes back to back test here, we'll be disappointed. But from a technical standpoint, that happens all the time. And if you weren't in and you got that back test at 338, you got to hit it long there, because the odds are in your favor that all this support is going to hold. So we'll see how it goes. Apple did not have a good day. Opened high and they faded it ever since. We had this level here on the daily chart, and you can see that level, there's muscle memory in these levels. And price obviously remembered there was a problem here at that 134.50, 135 area, and it went up for a touch and then got rejected. So that's going to be a level that needs to be, overcome if we're going to go up and test 138 and then, new highs. But PPO is still positive. RSI is still positive. There's still momentum in the move. We're not even back to the 8-day yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if there ends up being a little consolidation here, maybe like here, but that we eventually would break out. In fact, we need to see a breakout, or you got basically a double top there, which is not good. So we need to see this level taken out, and then I think there'll be more buyers there if in fact we can break out above that. Tesla, great day all in all. Up 3.5%, $23. Gap up, made a push towards 700, and then pulled back to this level. So that looks great. And I want to make a point here. We're all active traders, or most of us are, but there's also a large contingent of you guys that are, position or swing traders. And it's easy to say or think, that after a move from 625 to 675, oh crap, I wasn't in, I lost the move. Remember what I always say. Look for the next opportunity. And if you zoom out to the daily chart, which is what I have right here, you haven't missed anything. You've missed nothing at all. Yeah, you missed this, but so what? We just took out a major downtrend line off of the all-time highs, came down. And this is typical, that when you get to a well-defined resistance level, that it'll jump right over it. And that's what happened this morning. So let's say you're not in Tesla and you're a position trader. You haven't missed anything. You just got the breakout today. So what you can do is say, okay, here's my downtrend line. I can draw a line across and say, 665 right there, right at this downtrend line. That's my stop. If I drop below this downtrend line, the breakout failed, I was wrong, get out of the position. But look at all the upside. You got, before you really hit anything, is not until 760. So you got, let's see, we're at 680 to 760. That's $80 a downside with, $10 or $15 of risk. That's a great risk reward trade. You got to take that every time. And so my point here is that on the daily chart, you've not missed a thing. In fact, if you were trading off the daily time frame, or you're a position trader, you wouldn't have taken this trade down here. Why? Because you got big downtrend resistance right overhead. You wouldn't take that position, because odds were at the time that you would have got rejected here, and that would have made no sense. So you got the breakout, you got some running room, you got a tight stop just below. Think positive. You got all the EMAs curling up, which is a great place to be. And so if it can hold this level and simply, even if it goes sideways, not lose this downtrend line and stay above it, you're in the driver's seat. So I really like Tesla here. And look at the posture of the PPO. It's just now, even with this up move, just starting to break above the zero line and point it up. Look at the RSI, breaking above 50 and heading higher. That's perfect. That doesn't mean it's a guaranteed win, but the odds are in your favor to be long Tesla here. And I think it's a great setup on the daily time frame. Microsoft, the top of this red bar right here is when I made my post in the trading room, and then they sold it off. So I'm still long. I'm out in July 2nd calls. So it was disappointing to have that $2 pullback. But as long as it holds 266, I think we're fine. If we lose 266 tomorrow, I'll be out. Otherwise, I want to stay long. But let's look at the daily real quick. I mean, in the daily, stay long. I mean, we're in blue sky territory. The only reason I'm talking about 266 is the position of my calls. And what I might do is if we get a pullback, just go out in time. Just go out in time, buy some more time, stay long in blue sky territory. I think, the posture of the PPO and the RSI is great. I think Microsoft is heading higher. And as long as it can hold this 8-day, the pink EMA going up, got no worries. So I like Microsoft. Amazon is a different story. This was really disappointing to see, and I have no idea what happened here or why. I don't know if it had to do with, Prime Day or, sell the news or whatever it was, but that was a heck of a rug pull in Amazon today. But, if you were open-minded, if you're a two-way trader, and you were long against 3,500 like we talked about this morning, you get out and then you flip. Why? Because that was a well-defined line. You had a large volume over price resistance bar there, and there was no technical reason why that should have failed. And once it did fail, it was bad news, and you got a flush of $60 down here, and that would have been a great, if you had weekly calls for tomorrow, 3,500 puts or whatever you wanted to pick, that was a big winner coming out of nowhere. So anyways, if you got that, great. Now for tomorrow, it's got to hold. It's got to hold this, 34.45, 34.40. It's got to hold that. If it doesn't, that's not going to bode well for the Qs or, tech in general. I really wouldn't want to see that. So we're going to have to see, couple down moves here that were bought up. So maybe that's a good sign. Got a little hammer here in the last hour. So maybe they can ramp it tomorrow after this rug pull. But we're going to have to wait and see. So let's see how that rolls. But you can see the PPO diving down to 0 and RSI losing 50. That's not a very hot technical setup. Google didn't do anything. I mean, it gapped up and kind of held this 2450 level, which is fine. I think you stay long here. No reason to get out, particularly. I mean, we're at the all-time highs. I think it still looks good. No reason to get out, especially if you're on the daily time frame. Netflix made an initial surge up to 520, which was rejected. We came back. Very good sign that it held 515, which is the bottom of this gap, and then bounced off of there and closed near the high. So that was constructive action. I'm long out into next Friday. So where would I get out? I would get out if we lost 515. That would not be good. You got a gap down here below. Technically speaking, it's got to hold 515, and hopefully we get a good push tomorrow. That's what I'm hoping for. Semis had a good day, 1.63%. We had talked about down here that 248.50 was a technical buy. Why? Because we recaptured this well-defined level that we've had on the board for a while. So we broke above. Then yesterday we gapped up to 252, consolidated below, and then this morning we gapped over that resistance level at 252 and headed up towards our 256 level. So that's a good example of kind of like you're either in or you aren't. if you got in here on this breakout, you couldn't have imagined, the gap up. But if you weren't in and then the thing gaps up to here, then you got to decide, well, do I want to get in while it's pinned under resistance, or am I going to wait? So you wait, and then it gaps up again. So hard to get in that on these gap ups in the morning. So I think the thing to do is, commit to the sector if you're going to get in, and say, okay, if you have a philosophy that I don't get in until I'm over resistance, which is what I do, and it's kind of like why I'm not in, because these gaps don't give you a lot of opportunity to get in, so you feel like you kind of missed it, and then of course there's a gap the next day. So, but all in all, I mean, the semis look good, and so our next level is to clear 256 and then go for this 258 breakout level T1 that we had on the board down here. So if we break that level, look for 258. They've all of a sudden here it was so weak, and we were like, what's going on with semis? And then all of a sudden they caught fire. And, that's what you see every once in a while, that while the Qs are going up, you got one sector lagging, and then they catch up. So technically they look good. You got a rising RSI, you got a rising PPO above zero. So that's like the all systems go. Like I said, the next level is going to be 256. Go over some trade ideas that I had this morning that I sent out. We got this Navios Marine, nice symmetrical triangle, energy building within the coil, got all the EMAs below, and got a little breakout on price. So I took that long. I'm out in September, 10 calls. Not big, but anyways, I like this setup on the breakout with all the EMAs below. PPO trying to break above zero, RSI breaking above 50. I like the marine shipping sector. I've gone through the Baltic Dry Index at 10-year highs. I think with demand surging with the reopening. And remember, these marine shippers, it's global. So you get China rocking, you get India rocking, you get Malaysia rocking. That's going to bode well for all of these marine shippers, whether they're in oil or dry bulk. I think they got some nice tailwinds behind them, so we'll see how that goes. Cleveland Cliffs. I've been kind of holding off on the resource trade, piling back into steel, copper, aluminum, all that stuff. They've been beaten up pretty bad. I've been wanting to see more. I decided to take a small shot in the afternoon on Cleveland Cliffs. Why? We were at the bottom of this wedge with price recapturing the 20 and the 8 EMA. So I gave that a small shot, and that's the only thing I got going in resources right now. So, I'm in it. I want to see if this can, grind its way towards the top of this channel. There was some pretty good call buying support in the option chain. So I decided to take a little shot. And when I mean little, not going balls to the wall here at all. But if resources perk up, then I'll have a little marker position in steel and see if that can make a run. If you wanted to look at other names, there's BHP, there's Rio, there's Vale. What else? That's all that come to mind at the moment, along with Cleveland Cliffs. But ATI, you got Steel Dynamics. So those are some tickers that you can look at. But as a whole, I want to see more in the resource sector. I want to see if we've put in a durable bottom. I want to see some moving averages reclaimed. I want to see some resistance levels reclaimed. That's more of my style than trying to, tag a bottom and then have it either languish there for a long time or end up being, not the bottom and then, it heads lower. So I like to see a little upward momentum, and I like to see these recaptures of moving averages, and in this case, down at the bottom of the range versus, You can see make a run to the top, to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom. So with any luck, we'll make a run to the top, and then that will be a point where you'd want to exit that trade and take some profits if you were, lucky enough or good enough to get that move there. Chewies saw getting some call buying support. A lot of chatter out there on Chewies. We've got a level here at, let's call it 8150 or so, right here. All the EMAs have been recaptured. You can see that. They're all starting to turn up. So this might be an interesting trade for you to put on your radar. PPO breaking above 0. RSI breaking above 50 on a nice uptrend. Got a little horsepower behind it. So if it can break this level here, I think there's a good shot that it would make this, 89 area up at the top of this resistance band. That will be a big level, a big hurdle for it. If it can cross 90, you'll notice that over in the market profile here, there's low resistance zone here, kind of a void. So if you can get in this trade, if it works out, if you get the breakout and the market stays productive, get this run here, get up to 89, roll your stuff higher if you're, if we get that far. And then on the break above 90, then we could see a more explosive move where down in here, it's probably going to be more of a grinding type of move. Why? Because you got all this, you kind of in a congestion level here. So there might be more choppy action versus on a breakout of 90. And you may be a person that says, okay, I don't want to deal with all this down here. I'll alarm 89. When it fires, I'll be ready. That's perfectly fine as well. I just want to put stuff in front of you that you may be interested in. Here's Elf Beauty. I thought this was interesting because you've got a nice downtrend line. It held support here at 27, and now you've got the 50 right above. So you got dual resistance. You got the 50 and you got the downtrend line, both converging at 28. If, this is a big if price can pop the 50 and this downtrend line, I think you got a good chance for a nice move to the upside. So what I've done, I've alarmed 2850 in my, in my system. It either fires or it doesn't. It may decide it wants to come down here again to 27 and test the bottom and, try again. But if it pops above the 50 now and this nice downtrend line, it might be a good trade to take, if it can break out here. Looking at some other ones we got going. Pins had a nice day, 2%, pushing up to this 77 level. You could almost call that a gap fill today, but I think there's more left in the tank. If we do cross 77 tomorrow, I would definitely roll stuff up and make sure you took all this stuff to the bank. I mean, this market, you know how fast it can just erase gains. So I'd hate to see if you got in down here on the gap entry and you're $7 to the good. I mean, take that off. You can stay long, look for this breakout, and then, we can, go up towards 86 if everything, if all the stars align and we head higher. PayPal still looks good, going higher, stay long. Snap kind of lost horsepower today. Nothing wrong technically, but it did put in this doji here. I would have hoped for a stronger candle, but nothing wrong technically. Everything's still looking good RSI wise. You got all the EMAs curling up, clearing, above the 8 EMA here in pink. That'll chase it up, and maybe this turns into an 8 EMA walker. Just walk that 8 EMA all the way up. That would be a great result. Excuse me. Carvana, not a good candle. Why? You got a breakout and then it failed. Over here, you had a breakout that failed. Now, tomorrow will be a telling day. If it can hold 300 and you liked it long, that's right at the 80 MA and all this support. If you're interested in Carvana, I would hit it there at 300 and see how it goes. But I would want to watch this candle really, really closely tomorrow. But as far as, the overall technicals, you got all the EMAs coming up. You're at the highs. Okay, it rejected. As long as it holds 300, everything holds together. Now, if you see a big red candle slice through 300 like it wasn't there, remember our rules. You go out of a trading range, you do not want to come back in it, because if you come back in it, the bottom of the range becomes the target. So keep that in mind. And if you do get long at 300 and you lose it, get out of there fast, because that should not happen. Respect that stop, get out. If you want to go the other way, that's fine, or just step aside. But you do not want to see price go back into that trading range. Twilio, decent day, up a buck, but everything still looks good, holding the breakout. I'm still looking for 400 on that. And TAN had a little gap up and then didn't do anything the rest of the day. The one you may be thinking of is First Solar. We highlighted that this morning, and I don't know what happened, but it gapped up 7%. And I didn't see any news. I didn't look for any either, though, to be honest. But maybe there's something in that infrastructure bill, like, hey, let's give a 50% subsidy for new solar installations, for the next 2 years. Who knows? But if you weren't in it, now you can play a bracket trade around First Solar with the big gap up. If that fails, you got 7% downside that you can capture, or if it breaks out above that range, then you can get long for an extended move. So let's wrap it up there. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell. Hey, it's free. You might learn something. You might make some money. Be glad to have you. Longtime listeners, I appreciate your support. Pass the link along. Find somebody in your trading group that could use some help with technicals and levels, that wants to focus on execution. We'd love to have you, and welcome them into the group. So this has been Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass. Have a good night, and talk to you next time, which will be bright and early tomorrow morning. Wrap up the week. Let's see if we can wrap it up strong. Have a good night.